Hi, and welcome to Discover the Ordinary. My name is Daniel Hussar, and you see today I am not alone. Like usual, I have my first guest here, Bob Gravestijn, and I hope I said that correctly. Is that
Yeah, Bob Gravestijn, but it doesn't
Bob
matter.
Gravestijn? Ah, okay. So,
It's not an easy
so
name.
sorry about that. I should know that because we go way back. I think it was 2015 when we met, and because the reason that I invited Bob to do this podcast with me is because we share two passions or two things, I believe, and we connected. This podcast, this panel was about blockchain, actually, and we share a passion for technology and thinking about the future, I think, in a broader sense, and talking about it, and also talking about it not just as a fantasy or some kind of utopia, but how can we actually implement it in a way. And yeah, if you would like to have a more formal intro, because this is what we're going to talk about. Here you go. The stage is yours.
I can say something shortly about myself. Yeah, my
Yeah.
name is Bob Gravestijn, and I love to understand why something is working or something is not working. And basically, when it's not working, what are actually the opportunities there? And it's solving basically business problems, and also then technology can play a role over there. So it has to do a lot with digital transformation, innovation, and as well as strategy. How do we actually use new technology? How can you implement it properly? And lately, over the last 5, 6 years, a lot of focus on sustainability, which I think is a very interesting topic. And in the past, a lot related to value chains and financing the value chain as well. So that was one of the reasons I think I came in contact with you, Daniel.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because we are, and just for context, for the people that are not in our bubble, these conferences where we met were about receivables finance, so factoring, asset-based lending, supply chain finance, kind of this kind of bubble. Because actually, you work for ABN AMRO, I think. I hope I'm not disclosing a secret. No, this is quite open on LinkedIn,
Exactly.
and I used to work for FCOM at that time, which is a platform provider for factoring. So I was on the. This is also why I think this is very interesting, because you were always, I think, on the banking side, thinking on how to implement things, and I was on the other side, on the more on the tech side, and that's why this was so complementary. But if you think about sustainability, for example, what do you find fascinating about that in a wider context?
Ooh, that's a very hard question because it's such a
So
large topic to talk about. Uh,
yeah.
I think it's a very fascinating topic because, of course, first of all, it has a lot of interest currently because of the rules and regulations. It forces more and more companies to actually report on certain aspects related to environmental, social, and governance. But it basically is only not only thinking about doing that because it has to do with reducing our carbon footprint, reducing the amount of emissions we actually exhaust because it is detrimental towards our living in our future. So it is all about, yeah, making a livable place altogether again and how we can do
Mm,
that. And these
mm,
metrics would actually help. And one of the company, well, sectors which can play a huge role in that is, of course, the financial sector, which can actually make a difference by supporting the finance in order to make this transition possible.
mm,
Therefore, I think it's very interesting because, yeah, you're in the, the place where you can really make a difference in that perspective and make people think completely differently and how you actually can make it happen and achievable and really make a benefit for the rest of the community. In this case, I'm also very much interested always in SMEs, small,
mm,
medium-sized enterprises, because these have always the most problems because they don't have enough money, not the right knowledge, not the life skills. That's it. So how can you help them and put it forward much easier? And again, technology can play a role there to facilitate
mhm,
that and make it easier. So yeah,
mm,
sustainability, large topic. And originally, I came out of a topic called fusion, where we look actually in a new energy source, which could be just running on basically water or hydrogen in this case. So yeah, that is coming back and linking again a lot of what I experienced in the past with
mm.
more tangible and with finance. Never thought I would be related to a banking environment, but I think there you can have a huge impact. So
Hmm.
from that perspective, a lot of different angles why I think sustainability are very interesting. And yeah, hopefully that answered your questions a little bit, Daniel. I
Hmm.
don't know how you think about this topic actually yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, you're the expert with, of course, I touched upon this topic. I remember when it was just called sustainability and not ESG, for example. This was just this happened more in the last 5 years, but I'm not an expert. It was always part of the things to think about. But actually, you bring up some interesting points there when you say SMEs, for example. And what I also heard was, um, in a way that the technology, we need to teach them and to have some kind of platform or environment where these kind of benefits are possible, reduce the carbon footprint or do things more efficient and things like that. And if I will want to connect that, when we first met, I think it was Lisbon 2015, but I some or 2016,
I
but
can't
I
remember
just
when it was.
yeah, but
Time
I
ago.
distinctly, if we go back, like from the kind of the emotional side, I remember that we had a a panel about blockchain, and these were the early days. I remember, when in 2013 it was worth $1,000. It made the first headlines, and then slowly in the next 2 years it became more of an interesting thing that could work in finance or B2B. And now, to tie within your question, like to use the transparency of a blockchain, for example, for carbon footprint and things like that. This ties in. But I remember we sat there and we haven't prepared. We weren't prepared, and we did a good job. We did a good job because we 1 hour before the panel we managed, or 90 minutes we managed to meet, and we sat on this couch in the lobby, and we started talking.
Yep.
And the funny thing was that if we would have recorded that, I believe that would have been better than the actual panel. The panel was good. I'm not saying it was bad, but in the confines of this, and everybody is very, very serious, and we need to have very distinct statements, and that was so funny to me. And maybe, and the thing is, and now what happened, if you look, blockchain had such a huge promise for supply chain finance and things like that. How did that turn out? Like, I was a bit sad, to be honest, but I don't know how do you see things?
Yeah, I started being working using technology like blockchain in 2015. Then the banking industry got really interested in it because they saw it as a huge benefit. For instance, also for trade finance is one of the use cases where I also have a background in. So then you start looking into what does this technology bring, and indeed one of the things you mentioned is like you provide trust, transparency, but at the same time you're more in control of the data you would like to share, because yeah, that is very important also in a huge supply chain where you have so many participants, and which is very much paper based. And if it would be electronic, you basically get more of the transparency, but at the same time more in control of the information you share, because you still would like to have not always your name being mentioned, for instance, because if I go to the liquor store and I don't have to prove it anymore, but I have to prove that I'm more older than 18. Yeah, it's not interesting to see my name, for instance. I should just say like, yes, I'm older than 18.
Yeah, for
So that was
identity. Yeah.
used
We,
much.
we 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 could be 18. I mean, this is
I'm 19, so.
okay. Yes. Yeah.
But that
Privacy.
therefore it could have been very much it is very useful for that technology to use it, and of course
Mm.
payback. So what you saw, there was a huge hype, of course. You saw a lot of initiatives going to happen, a lot of collaborations between financial institutions where they started to create all kinds of business proposals, and you saw then they started to create all kinds of blockchain-based platforms. But indeed, a lot of them actually disappeared due to many different reasons. It still is not very clear for many of them why they didn't really succeed. But one of them, I think, is that most of the investing parties in it, most of the times also financial institutions, didn't really see the return of investment coming back to too much time. The barriers of adoption were extremely high. Although there could have been very interesting value propositions, the technology itself took over as a topic and not the value proposition. That was one of the issues. So we started to talk more about the blockchain instead of the value it could bring towards the clients and the ones who need of a certain problem to jobs to be done. And then at the same time, the very much need of to have very quick on return, investment of return on the investment. So yeah, next to that, you saw also sometimes proposition being done where some companies working together, but they were wanting to use the same technology themselves. So what is then the difference between what I call always the mothership together with this new thing? How much are they independent from each other? So also things like governance, how open are they? How much are they their own company? And how much are they still having this tights between them?
Mm.
Sometimes if then a participant wants to join on it, it depends really, okay, how much am I in control of my own data? If all my data then goes to those companies, I would not like that. So that also creates a high barrier of adoption again. So the technology is flourishing because you see a lot of propositions out there in the market, although you don't know the technology being used. So I think that is really a difference. And the ones which were out in the market, which failed, yeah, they were too big. It was unclear related with the governments. The technology was more important somehow in the communication than the proposition itself. And of course, then the willingness to really invest in it for a longer period of time instead of having these short-term returns already. I think those were barriers that actually some of them fit.
Hmm. That makes a lot of sense. That you have, I mean, to just summarize the points, maybe the technology was not so easy to adopt, and you actually need many parties for blockchain to make sense, right?
Exactly.
Because we had this discussion many times also in the past, where I would get a bit frustrated, and I would go up to people and say, okay, why are you using this instead of a database? Why are we doing this?
Yep.
And in some cases there was no straight answer possible, and I understand the enthusiasm. I wanted to use it every day, and but so this thing, like, is it the right project? And then the other one was really the implementation was not easy, and not even the use wasn't easy. And
Yeah.
then it was kind of a solution for a problem that didn't exist. That's what a lot of people then, when this verge of frustration came to be. That was also one of the things and the pressure, of course, of the
Wanted to
ROI.
use blockchain because it was a hype and you could get very much easy funding. And as you say, yeah, you could have used the normal database or something. Because widely you also use the concept of what is called a private blockchain versus a public blockchain. And so a lot of initiatives on the private blockchain where you wonder what is then the added value of it?
Yeah.
Because you still have a lot of barriers to actually enter because you have to do onboarding. So there's some party who's going to decide that you can be part of this network. And if you're part of this, like, what is your role then? A lot of discussions on that and unclarities.
Mhm. Absolutely. So that it seems that in that case, and maybe it's always different in a way, that the weight of the problems with technology adoption. But in that case, I also think that it was many parties have to work together to achieve something. So you have politics, and that's always bad. And that's always, I mean, maybe maybe we will talk about that later. How to implement things. So basically now the goal for me really is now to identify common problems, and then we talk about implementation later, and how we can fix that. And but it's always difficult with many parties, and when you need them to deliver value, and then when the implementation is kind of complicated and it's new and people don't get it, that's obviously a bit difficult.
Sure. And in that
Yeah.
perspective was very interesting technology because as you said, blockchain you cannot do it on your own. You have to collaborate because you have this network of nodes which are collaborating. So you saw that there were also a lot of financial institutions for the first time really working together, which was
Hmm.
completely new. So yeah, how do you do good collaborations? And one of the first important proposals is that you have a shared vision. You want to achieve the same things, and then it should be very clarified also what are your roles and responsibilities. And at the same time, where they were not really focused on like showing value very quickly. First,
Hmm.
everything had to be figured out, like creating a satellite uh, before you launch it. You have to have everything very clear before you actually start doing it. And here, yeah, you have to do more of experimenting, proof of concept, show your added value, and then really start investing in it. So it was also a completely new way of working, which was very interesting actually to be part of, to see this change from these
Hmm.
large companies, which normally did very structured way of all-time program management, how to develop new products and bring them to the market, that you saw them in this collaboration to do it much more agile and design thinking kind of thing uh, to put it forward before they really started to build new companies with them.
Mm. That's an interesting point. Do you think now, because for me it's more looking in from the outside when you talk about these things, because um, that because the culture kind of changed maybe a little bit from, let's say, 2016 until now, that you see big banks being able to, I mean, a lot of the projects, they didn't come to fruition as people hoped, or some of them. But would you change that, would you say that there is a cultural change that happened because of these projects in the past 8 years, as a success, really? That would be, I would love that.
Yeah, I think the willingness to collaborate and do partnerships, I think, increased dramatically. Also, the awareness before the institutions wanted to do the innovation themselves, and now they see like actually we can also benefit from using fintechs collaborations. First, they saw them as the enemies. Now they see them basically as an opportunity because yeah, they have a certain mindset, focus on a problem, have nicer, quicker products with time to market, quicker time to market than the incumbents, basically the larger organizations. So you see the collaboration willingness much more present. Of course, a large organization has the clients, where the fintech wants to use, and vice versa, because you can use the technology as well as the customer centricity from one of the smaller companies
Mm.
and use them to offer better services and products to your clients. So yeah, there is a complete different change. First, my experience was people wanted to do that all by themselves, maybe using certain vendors to make processes more automated, more sufficient, supporting it. But now you see that the value is also, dispersed in certain parts, and they actually see like, okay, for this I can actually do a collaboration much easier
Mm.
with an external party and create a partnership there.
Mm. Well, that's good. Then something good came out of it. It's just not something that makes the headlines, in a way. This is like a gradual change, and when you hear about a platform bankruptcy or something like that, that is
Yeah,
what
that's
makes
big. Yeah,
makes makes the headlines. That's the thing.
these type
Okay.
of lessons learned and what the involvement, all those
Yeah.
kind of things. No, you never really read about it unless somebody did a
Yeah.
paper on it because of a research interest. Why is something happening? What are the
Yeah.
success stories and what were the ingredients that it became a success story? Or why something failed and how can we mitigate that? Yeah,
Mm.
unless it's research like that, no, yeah, normally you don't take the time to reflect on it yourself either.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true, and it doesn't make for a catchy headline as well. Gradual change in corporates and banks working together to make positive change happen, or something like that. It's good news,
It's
but
great news,
but
but you never
but it
know
sounds horrible.
what is the value.
But it's also, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and if we now, and that is the thing, and this is why I like talks like this, because we get into, you're a practitioner in this, and you can get us the things, you can tell us the things that didn't make it into the headlines. And what makes a lot of headlines now, maybe to shift the topic as well, is AI. of course. It's everywhere. I originally didn't plan my podcast to be an AI podcast, but that is basically what happened, because it's
Okay.
also in my daily life. It helps me when I code, like all these kinds of things, when I create content that are possible now. And just maybe and just to describe it quickly for let's say a bit more non-technical folks out there, if we talk about the headlines, it's mainly large language models, ChatGPT, things like that, which are incredibly easy to use in comparison to blockchain. I'm
Oh yeah.
opening that and it basically is if you remember text prediction on your keyboard, on your iOS keyboard or Android or whatever, it would predict usually the next word, and it would learn also from your habits, and you kind of had a mix of the keyboard predicting the next word and your habits, like playing a huge role in this prediction. And what a large language model does, there was a paper in 2017, it's called by Google, Attention is All You Need. And it has this attention mechanism, and it takes just a much bigger volume of words into account for these predictions. And also gives you, well, it doesn't give you also just one word, but many words. If you tell it to or not tell it to, some of the models are quite verbose. But that's it. And it sparked a lot of interest. And I think, and I don't know what your perspective is on that, but one thing that I like about this, that for B2C, it's immediately usable.
Yeah.
Anybody can use this. I don't know if the result will be perfect or anything like that, but everybody gets this. And with blockchain, you definitely you could not
No,
do
but the
that.
same time, it was
You
not
could
required.
transfer Bitcoin. Yeah.
No, but Daniel, it was not required either because you don't know how
Mm.
your phone is working or how the internet is working, but you know how to use your smartphone and how to use a laptop. And with blockchain, for me, it's basically the same thing. It's just a layer which you actually can build propositions and value on, where then somebody like you and me can have value, yeah, benefit from.
Mm.
Now you see that the large language models, generative AI, yeah, bring that much easier to the public because yeah, you put in some statements and you get something back, or you upload a large document and you ask for a summarization and you get a really nice short summary. Yeah, that's much more tangible very quickly, very shortly, of course.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I try to get a definition just for myself. Just thinking about these things. Is this the next 3D TV, or is it the next blockchain, or is it or is it a large language model? Because and I thought the adoption rate is extremely high. So
Yeah,
this is very very relevant. They were, I think, the first app that reached 1 million users in, well, a very short time frame. I don't remember what it was, and or 10 million, and also this B2C impact, because what I see in the B2B world is often, we have a lot of more things that are standing in our way, like regulation and internal regulation, the law, I don't know, best practices. This is just how things are done. We're not going to change it just because you're enthusiastic, like these kind of things. What kind of projects are you seeing, or what's your opinion of this? Like I'm thinking it's more of a platform technology that enables like a lot of things.
yeah. Of course, the basis is always data because you need a lot of data before you can actually do something with artificial intelligence.
Mhm.
And it's also, I think, always remarkable to acknowledge that artificial intelligence is something which is already since the 50s or 60s. So, and then we have machine learning, which is then easier to, yeah, quantify and qualify certain groups of information. So there was a lot about it already present. But then in the deep learning space, what we're currently talking about, and especially the generative, the large language models, yeah, that is really since November last year.
2022, November
November
2022.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it came out. No, yeah, yeah. That's when GPT-3
Two
came
two
out.
years ago, basically. So, and now it's basically everybody knows it. Well, most people use it in a private world, basically, a lot.
Hmm.
they just do, instead of a Google search, they start looking into ChatGPT to summarize it. Students use it also to record lectures, get summaries out of it, and some cards in order to learn the topic itself. So there's a huge amount of things are possible. So you see a huge change there, for sure. But it's a lot of in your private world. If you go more to the business world, then you see a completely different thing happening. Especially in Europe, the adoption of new technology is rather low, especially also with artificial intelligence. There is an interest from a lot of executives on this topic, but the willingness to really do something with it is really, really low compared with the rest of the world, especially in Europe.
Hmm.
I
Why do
don't
you
know why
think
that
that
is,
is? Yeah.
but there's some kind of fear there in that perspective because they don't grasp really the technology. They see
Hmm.
it still as a black box because you cannot really understand what is sometimes happening.
Hmm.
And there's of course rules and regulations. There's also the possibility of the issue with ethics. So if you start creating a model, how does it respond to different nationalities, different uh, ethnical backgrounds, etc.
Hmm.
So that is what companies are very scared of.
Hmm.
So they want to have a lot of human in the loop, so to say, to check the
Hmm.
end result.
Hmm.
And of course, then you see also companies are really not really willing to change quickly. Normally, people don't like change. So this is also again completely transformative. So there's a fear of losing jobs, while it can actually augment your work, take away a lot of boring processes which you could actually automate with the help of this technology, and you focus more on strategic thinking or problem solving, bringing more value, for instance, in conversations with your clients, etc. So you can use it much
Hmm.
easier for marketing and sales. You can do it much more in a personal way
Hmm.
than thinking about how I'm used to in the past with innovation, that you create these personas. So you have a certain way you think somebody is having it. But now with all these insights and information, what you see in huge platforms like Amazon, Facebook, etc., they can make it much more personalized just because this technology is helping them to do so.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yes, it has a lot of benefits, but you see there's still a lot of reluctance, especially in Europe, related to this topic, because I just mentioned a few of them. But also the executive, normally the team is not really understanding it and reluctant to really use it because they're afraid of making mistakes, and that has a huge impact
Hmm.
on the company, basically.
Hmm. I, yeah, yeah. I hear what you're saying. It's also, regulation in the EU is definitely a topic that nobody wants to make be the guy who I don't know, made a customer facing chatbot, and it gives you a recipe to how to build a bomb or something like that, and then screenshot Twitter or X or whatever, and that was the company's reputation for that. That I get that. And also, but what I really I struggle to understand a little bit, because I mean this mindset, and then maybe in Europe, and especially in Germany, we are very security oriented. We have more insurances on average than probably any person on the planet. I think there are some statistics on that. But what I don't understand, like, let's compare this to blockchain, for example. Also extremely, good use cases, the things that we thought up, like whole supply chain blockchains for with smart contracts, automating things, and then having an ESG layer on top of it, so you can really track the origins of your diamonds and make sure they are not blood diamonds, like really like ethical stuff that nobody would object to.
Mm-hmm.
But it costs a lot of money. It's complicated for many reasons: technology, politics, and regulation. But so the ROI and the ROI is sometimes it's very complex. It's not clear. But with AI and large language models, the ROI, like for me, is it's crazy. When I use this, just to give you an example, I write articles and posts and things like that. It took me weeks sometimes. Now I have an idea, and
Mhm.
I can I can articulate it. I talk. I use usually voice. I just articulate the idea. I get a draft. I work on the draft. I work through many iterations, but this can be done in hours instead of
Mhm.
weeks. So I don't even know. Maybe it's sometimes 100% efficiency gain, and the result is better than I would have written it alone. Unfortunately, or fortunately, it hurts my pride a little bit, maybe, but I don't care in reality. And but maybe it's also 500%. I haven't even measured it. And I always thought that if the ROI for certain, like the low hanging fruit, low complexity, low risk of data is that high. um have you faced this in your work? Like, well, what kind of reason do you think that is compared to blockchain? If that makes sense to you, I mean, that question.
Yeah, well, one of the things the best to do is just experiment with it. Make some use case,
Mm,
start small, see what benefit it can bring to you, so you can really make clear what is the return of investment, basically. Then you get
mm,
support on it also because you show the results. The more support you with, the larger project it becomes. And there is
mm,
more willingness actually to start really investing in this new technology. Because what you say, it's easy to use in principle, but you also have to have the knowledge and the skills in order to implement it and start really using it properly. So
mm,
that's from a technical point of view side, but also the users themselves, the end users, you and me
mm,
persons, they also have
mm,
to have faith in it. And well, normally people are quite reluctant to start using new technologies, so you should also show them the benefit and what it can bring to them. But really, it augments their work instead of
mm,
taking it away from them that they lose their job. Because that's,
mm,
I would say, it's not the case with artificial intelligence. It really supports you in many cases. Uh,
mm,
one of the things which I think could be very interesting to have a look at, because I have, it's just something that came up. We have always these budget discussions every year coming again, and this top or bottom, and then how it fits with strategy and aligns and so on. There's a huge amount of data in it. Yeah. Also, I think artificial intelligence can help you with it. If you have a very clear vision of what you would like to achieve, define the outcomes, define some metrics related to it, and then you
mm,
start building up like how you actually think about how you can support that with the amount of money. Then you probably can get a good overview of what is really aligning with it, what is not, and where you can then make new choices to really make it more efficient. Uh, I think that's impossible if you just use Excel files, which are helping you to make some smart insights and maybe visualize it. But I think this technology can make it even more uh, helpful.
mm,
It's just an example, which is, I think, a painstaking process, which takes every year. A lot of people are involved with it, and basically there's no value in this whole process.
mm. Yeah. To kind of combine data silos in a way, right? That you have really very raw and unstructured data, and you structure it, make it better, and then you pool it, and then you can compare it. You can ask the large language model questions, and that's even not that hard to do, really. That's why I'm so curious about these things, because I did some work here in Germany also for some startups. We did some courses within, like, how to customize my GPT first
Mm.
without coding. Like, really, come on. we we are doing a marketing texting assistant that will make you copy. That was
Yeah.
also one. And because if you use like vanilla ChatGPT for this, the result is, I wouldn't say it's horrible, but it's very generic. It's very generic in a lot of cases. It got better over time, but when you had 3.5, like the version, it was very. And I think that's where a lot of people just said, I know this is AI, this is not very useful, or it's like. But if you give it examples, and that's where you point in with the data comes in. If you give it like 10 of your texts and say, pay attention how I structure the argument. That's what you put in the system prompt, like like how the model should think, right? Like this. Pay attention to the style. This is what I want from you, and I want you to write like I always have a combination of Hemingway and Oscar Wilde, because it's the best. Like structure and wit, and that's it. This is how I structure it, but you can do it in many ways, or you can feed it. You can feed some more company data even, and then you could go for the things that you just mentioned. Actually, you could go for more data and for more complex cases, and maybe the ROI isn't that clear, because it's so much easier than, let's say, a blockchain implementation. It's
For
not
sure.
even comparable.
For sure.
I
And
think.
I think what you just mentioned also, you create content with it basically for marketing.
Yeah.
And what you saw, especially in the past, is like one size fits all and maybe some adjustments on it, and you just send out. If it's done in a larger company, sometimes you don't know even what is sent to a client.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get that. What
But
is?
sometimes if you have a larger company, you have different types of outings, marketing or practices. So there's some fixed contents being sent, and sometimes you don't know even what is sent to the client. And maybe one moment you actually get a complaint, and a week or the day after they receive a letter on the topic they were actually complaining on. So it even creates more of irritation. So with
Mm,
artificial intelligence, you can make it, in my opinion, not just basic content. You can make it much more personalized. Start also having a good overview. What are the interactions from customer center to all the way you send out something for an event or an email, or you have a telephone call coming in or out, some relationship managers talking with a
mm,
client, how that all fits together and actually adapts it to really the situation that the client is in. So if there is a certain topic they currently are really interested in, okay, you actually adjust the content immediately to that with all the stuff you just described,
mm,
also with the tone of voice, etc. So you can make it much more personalized and actually much more adding value to the need of the client in that perspective. Instead of that, I think is something interesting for you. No, I know much more about you, so I know that what I can offer to you is much more interesting. And instead of
mm,
really doing the push of a certain product, I can just create more interest in it. That next time you actually require something, you can think of it and start asking it immediately.
mm.
So
Yeah.
putting the seeds of interest becomes much more interesting because you can do much more personalization with the help of artificial intelligence thinking about content.
Mm,
And I think that is really
mm,
interesting. But again, it requires a huge amount of data to be analyzed, which we as human beings would have a hard time.
mm. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to use also, because I hear what you're just saying was automation, for example. That is
Yes,
also something in
absolutely.
in the large language model world, or in the AI world, that's always called an agent. Like these kinds of agents.
Do you
Some
have
of
a good,
them, yeah.
sorry to interrupt you, Danny. Do you have a good definition of what is then an agent, basically?
Mm. Yeah, that's a good that's a good one. I would always compare it to a smart contract in blockchain. That's the automatic part of it, because for me, conceptually, to understand a large language model, I would say it is an operating system. That's something I don't know. It's because people just say and then you do so many things with them, and then you build apps on top of that, and the app could be just I want you to write this in a different style, and you make it in a half an hour or an hour, and you test it like a custom GPT or something like that, or you make something much more complex, that has different automation steps, just like you outlined. Maybe I have different clients that I want to address, different buyer personas in marketing. Maybe I make different agents for that as well, that create the content, with sometimes with not so much data. Actually, I use like 20 examples from my personal marketing GPT. I don't need more. That's how much I needed until I liked what I saw. And to answer your question, the definition of an agent would be really the automation part, that the AI does things on your behalf, and it takes one or several steps of automation, and some easy ones are you're addressing like an API to some other application, for example. Those are the easy ones, but we've seen now developments which are crazy, like Anthropic. This is another for our viewers. This is OpenAI. Everybody knows them because they build ChatGPT. But then there's Anthropic. They built a large language model that's called Claude, and Claude really excels in software development. This is what people use for coding, for creating prototypes and these kind of things and more. And they released a an agent, I would call it, like something that is automatic, that can take over your computer and do things on your behalf. And there's a video. I'll link that in the description. It's good that we talk about that. And it does things. I mean, this is now like super high risk, and this is like, for me, this is prototype level. It basically, I think the example that the lady used, that she's one of the top engineers there. She said, "Oh, a friend is coming to San Francisco where I live. Can you put together some kind of tour for us for tomorrow, from lunch till dinner or something like that?" And it and it did. It made it clicks. It records. Basically, it takes snapshots of your screen and it navigates like this. It's crazy.
Okay, cool.
And that's a complex agent, I would say. I hope that makes sense. But I'll let me. I'm just taking notes here. Sometimes, not that I'm not listening.
Sure, but
Uh,
this is an example also, you do it again for a private life, but in the business to B2C world or B2B world, you can do the same thing, because basically you use a lot of different sources to basically combine it and create something new with it, which you can automate it. For instance, if you would now have a discussion as a banker, you have to prepare your conversation with your clients. You have to most of the times look in all kinds of different tooling instruments to get a good overview. What is it in a certain dashboard in a way, and what could be an interesting topic, and how can you actually interact properly with your client. And it becomes more and more difficult also now with all of the sustainability related to it.
yeah, yeah,
Not
and
everybody is a specialist in the topic, so how can you make their life easy so they get the best insights and as well as enough tools in order to have a powerful conversation that brings also value to your clients, instead of you just asking questions and you try to sell financing products, because that it doesn't really make a good connection with your clients. So there also this technology can play a huge role, as an example with this agent what you just mentioned.
Absolutely. It's just when I have clients talking to me about this about these kind of things in a B2B context, I mean, this is very new, obviously, these complex agents, but this is the scary stuff that I personally don't touch yet. To be honest,
So
like
therefore, you have to keep
customer.
in the loop to find out if it's really true and start learning that. Or instead of just
Yeah.
generating it, first observe what humans are doing and actually start learning from that in order to improve the results later. So you can automate that process because you mimic what they're already doing. So there are ways of course, implement that in that perspective. Instead of just looking at the data and come and something, you can also just observe what a human is doing and learn from that perspective, and then start using that to automate the process. So
Mm,
mimic basically the human intelligence and the process of thinking with the help of that agent then.
mm. That's maybe I'm a bit more reluctant, actually, like with this thing. This is funny. This is really funny because normally I'm always like, oh, let's do it. It's amazing. I'll be like, like this, with caution, of course, but
You have to be
I
consistent
like
with
new
the
things.
project, and
But
don't. It is a black box. Don't trust in it. You have to still
yeah,
do these checks. Keep the
but
human in the loop, so to say.
yeah, but I like my approach, and maybe I don't know if you agree. But my approach was always, we go for really simple, quick wins in a way, and learn on the project, because like when I was coding and learning to code as well many years ago, like hello world projects are horrible. they're not exciting, and I hated them, and I always wanted to build. I build like things that I use, like apps for myself and stuff like that. That's what I'm, like when I'm testing things, and like this, and this is fun, and it's useful. Hopefully, most of the time it's useful, I would say, and it's not that hard, and then you can scale. But when I'm very hesitant, and then the next level would be something like this risk agent that we talked about, or bringing several data uh, silos together
Mm-hmm.
and then interpreting them. But this is also, I mean, it can be some risk with exposing the data. You can run a local model. I mean, there are local models and things like that you can use for that. But there's always a human expert in the loop with these kind of things. And these two things, I fully, I would recommend anyone to do this in their company. It doesn't even matter if you're an SME. We talked about that or you mentioned in the beginning, especially them. You can gain such an edge, but where I draw the line for the moment is customer facing applications like chatbots and things like that. I don't personally think that they can be useful, but you have to be very careful. This is a very complex project because there can be a hijack. This is called prompt injection, and they say like really silly stuff and dangerous stuff, and then you take a screenshot, like like I mentioned, and
But it's
and if
also
you,
cold communication. Do you want to
yeah,
have cold communication?
yeah, yeah, exactly. This is it, but and then this complex agent stuff. I'm, this is a prototype. I would not touch that
That's why I
for
don't
business.
think it immediately as this moonshot you want to achieve immediately. No, take these
Yeah,
small steps. Like I said,
yeah.
think about the building blocks in order to get there and start doing it in small cycles, small experiments, see how it works, what does the value bring, and then start building on top of it. So
Mm,
indeed, like small little Lego blocks, you start with one and then start making more and more until you have this beautiful castle or whatever you want to call it. For this rocket to actually go to the moon to reach this moonshot. But that's basically how you have to do it. Yeah,
mm.
experiment with it small, so you're feeling you're in control and you learn from it. Because if you won't do this big bang, you're not in control basically.
Yeah. Yeah, and people feel more confident, right? This is that's the thing. Like everybody involved feels more confident, and then
Yep.
the C level can also see, okay, this is how the technology works. There are some things we don't know. We actually don't know 100% how large language models work. Even even the geniuses
True.
that sit on the top of this research that are on top. But this is good. This is great.